So I'm in my backyard, and look what's in my backyard with me. See those? 2 pigs. Yep. Not really sure how to get those pigs out of my backyard and into the hog pen. I don't know. Hey, welcome back to Two Little Crows Homestead. Randy and Shelly here. We are on our way out to Jason's place. He's with Kentucky Sustainable Living, and we're going to be a part of his guild class. So come along with us.
Morning, everybody. We're going to do the guild planning class, and we're going to act like we're halfway professional. George. Stupid stuff. All right.
Only halfway though.
Yeah. All right. Shelly, you want to start it?
Sure.
All right.
So my name's Shelly Randolph. It's nice to meet you all. This is my husband Randy. We live in Metcalfe County, Edmonton. It's about an hour east of here. And so just a little bit about us. We bought our farm it's been about 2 years ago. We just had a 1 acre piece of land, or a little bit less than an acre, in Barron County in Glasgow. And we had raised chickens and pigs. And then this opportunity came for us to buy our farm, 14.5 acres in Edmonton. And since doing that, we started raising pigs along with our chickens. And we have rabbits and guineas. And we did have turkeys, but I figured out that I hate turkeys. And so they're in freezer camp now. And but that's what we're doing in Metcalfe County. And when we first moved onto our farm, we had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea where to begin or how to do any of it. And so we reached out. I had been watching YouTube, like everything I could find about, homesteading and all that kind of thing. We reached out to William Bond at Permapasture Farm. And I don't know if you follow them, Billy and Michelle and William. They're in North Carolina. Anything that you want to know about permaculture and even, gardening, raising animals, all that kind of thing, they get their channel is just a wealth of great information. I highly recommend it. And since then, Randy and I have actually become friends with the Bonds, and we just love them dearly. But William came to our farm and did a permaculture evaluation on our farm, and then he laid out drawings for me. He gave me instructions, do this first, do this next, and he took into consideration like what all of our goals were. And like in the first year, second year, 5 years, whatever. And one of the things that was really important to me was I wanted to create a place that, because Randy and I are in our 50s, I mean, at some point, we're going to die. And we want this place that we're building to be something that our kids can come back to and actually like be able to just pick up where we left off and live off the land. So one of those important things to me was to build a food forest. And get that started now, so when our grandbabies are older, they can come back and all of this food is just there for them. So just getting into the class that we're doing today, the difference between when you're talking about a food forest versus an orchard, like I think all of us know what an orchard is. You go to Jackson's or whatever, pick apples and all that kind of stuff. An orchard is very... it's laid out in a way that's like structural. Like you'll have all kinds of apple trees in a row and that kind of thing. A food forest is kind of camouflaged or incognito. If somebody's walking down the road and they look over and see this, they just think it's a forest. They just think it's nature or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, people do not know how to forage. They do not know what's growing or what they can eat out there. So you don't want, like this is Kentucky Sustainable Living. It's not Kentucky prepping living, right? And I think that if you have a prepper mindset, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you have a prepper mindset, it ends up being a homesteading thing, I mean, it's just gradually going to go that direction.
If you start out beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, and I've got a year's supply of food, and then it's like you look at, oh, I'm great, I got a year's supply of food, 10,000 rounds of ammo, and 100 guns. But you're like, what do you do on day 366?
Exactly.
And if all you do is
Yeah.
stock freeze-dried food, when you open that first can, the clock starts ticking on your life.
Yep.
So as soon as you crack the seal, it's like, I've got 365 days to live. We might as well make the most of it.
Right. So the whole idea behind a food forest and plant guilds are inside of a food forest. The whole idea behind a food forest is the sustainability part. Okay, so you want to be able to, you know where that stuff is at. The average Joe walking down the street may not see anything but trees and weeds on the ground or whatever, but you know what's out there and you know what you can eat and you can go harvest and all of that. So a food forest it's kind of concealed. It's a natural thing. You're going to mimic nature in this. And we're going to talk about all of the different plants that you put into it and how they coincide and benefit each other. But the thing that you want to keep in mind is that it follows nature. About a year ago, a friend of mine gave us something like 25 blackberry plants. And they had some on another part of their farm, and they wanted to put, where they had the blackberries, they wanted to put something else, and they just had an abundance. And they're the thornless kind, which I love. And so she called me and she's like, yeah, I know that you guys are homesteading and we'd like to bless you with these plants. So we go over there and dig them up, and they had them like they were all in a straight line, and they had posts at each end, and there was like wire coming through there, and they were vined up in the wire, and it was all very neat and very easy to weed eat and keep clean and all of that. And Randy, he was like, this is what we need to do. And so we get the plants home, and he goes, okay, where do you want to put these? And I have an area where I've started putting a food forest. I've got trees and apples and pears and stuff down there. And he said, where do you want to put this? And he's got one of those augers, so he's out there digging holes in the ground. And I was like, I want one here, and I want one here, and I want one over here. And he's like, this is not the line. He's like, the line. And in my mind, he's sitting there thinking,
which on my behalf, it makes it really hard to mow around.
Yeah, he's like, it's really hard to keep clean. It's really hard to manicure and all that kind of stuff, which is not something you need to worry about with a food forest, and we'll get to that. But in my mind, I'm like, I want it to look like nature. I want it to mimic nature. I want people, if they see this, they don't really know what they're looking at, kind of thing. I don't want them to see lines of food growing out here, So just keep that in mind as we go through this. You want it to mimic nature and to go off of that.
And the other cool thing about it is the difference between the food forest and an orchard. An orchard is just monocrop. So if you've got all your apples and you're like, oh great, I've got 100 apple trees, and then you've got a frost at the wrong time, everything's done for. It's like no apples. But everything's going to be staged to where it's coming in season at different times. So if something freak happens with your apples, oh, it's okay, we've still got blueberries, or we've still got blackberries, raspberries, goji berries, whatever is coming around. That's the nice thing about it. And then also disease. If something comes in and knocks all your blueberries out, you're like, great, I've still got apples because this thing it just killed the blueberries as opposed to killing everything. So that's one of the nice things about it. And everything's not going to come in at the same time. So you might be harvesting blueberries, and then you're going to start harvesting the apples, and then you can start doing your strawberries and whatever time everything comes in.
So the thing about when you're talking about a food forest, there's 3 components to a food forest that are the big components. If you look on the second page, well, it's the first page, this one right here with the picture, you have this, you have like an overstory or a canopy, and that's going to be your big tree. And that's going to be shading out other things. So you got to keep in mind, you might be planting an apple tree that is, like a bare root tree, and it's only like this tall right now, but at some point it's going to get big. And so the way that Jason has drawn these, you've got those bushes that are kind of going to be in the middle, like your blackberry bushes and your blueberry bushes. He's got those outside of the canopy of the tree because this is like the shade that the tree is going to put out, and you want to make sure that those sun-loving things are going to be able to reach that.
Like the drip line.
So this is the thing about a guild I mean, I keep thinking like big picture and little picture. This is like, I know this looks huge, but this is one small component to a food forest. You've got the one tree, and then we're gonna talk today about everything that goes around this tree. And you're gonna duplicate this over and over and over to create a whole food forest. Does that make sense?
Because
So-
we've got 15 or 16 trees out there already, so it's gonna be this essentially times 15. So, and you'll see when we get down there, the whole area that we've got mulched is pretty much just gonna be food forest and everything down there. So, I mean, you've got a spot, when we're done, we'll probably have a spot the size of the shop. So like 1,500 square feet of food forest. And it grows up, like Shelley was saying, somebody looks at it and they're like, that dude just hadn't mowed his yard. You know, he hadn't upkept everything. It looks just like weeds and stuff like that, which is great.
Yeah. So on the big picture of this, when you're talking about your trees, some things that you need to remember, you need to keep, you need to kind of stagger. You want, okay, so like there's this pattern, NAP, NAP, NAP. N stands for nitrogen fixer. And I actually have a list of nitrogen fixers here that do great in this area. You can take a picture of it before you leave here today. But some things that grow naturally in Kentucky are mimosas. I don't know if you all know what those look like, but I brought one for Jason because we have mimosas all over our property. They kind of look like ferns, and they get pink flowers on them. So mimosas, they're pretty invasive. They're pretty prolific. You can actually cut these off right at the ground, and when we cut ours off, like what, around April or something like that, and by June they are over our head, growing sprouts everywhere. So if you don't want them on your property, don't plant one. But they are nitrogen fixers, and they're actually very pretty trees. Nitrogen fixers will go deep into the ground, pull the nitrogen up, and anything that's planted around them that needs nitrogen to survive, it benefits them, okay? And almost all plants need nitrogen. Almost all of them.
If you have rabbits, they like them too.
Yeah, rabbits love this. So what we do, we cut these off, or the leaves or whatever, and feed them to our rabbits, and then we'll cut it down to the ground and it grows right back like crazy. Also, it gets these little pink flowers on them, and you can make tinctures out of that you can use for, they're like anti-inflammatories, and they help with respiratory stuff and all of that. It's a very beneficial plant, but it is very prolific, and it spreads, it grows like crazy. They're pretty, but you just have to decide if that's something that you want. A lot of the nitrogen fixers are actually, in our area, people call them invasive, and they don't want them in their yard or whatever, but they're the black locust tree.
I would not plant one of those. I've been cutting those things down just because I despise them because of the thorns.
They're like one of the best nitrogen fixers though, but yeah, they got thorns. They don't feel good.
Tractor tire thorns.
Yeah.
Redbud trees. We have redbuds all over Kentucky. Those are nitrogen fixers. They're good to plant in a food forest and around your fruit and nut trees. Anytime, so like when we're talking about this NAP, it's nitrogen fixer, apple, and pear. It doesn't have to be that. It could be a cherry tree or a plum tree or a persimmon tree or
Peach tree.
Yeah, whatever kind of pea you can think, or whatever kind of fruit tree you can think of, or nut tree you can think of. Anything that you can harvest food off of, that's what these represent, okay? But you want to stagger them. You're not going to have them in a line like this. They're just going to be staggered all over the place. And you want to make sure that if you have apple trees or any kind of fruit tree that has to have a tree with it to pollinate it, that you've got that within about 10 to 15 feet from it, so they're pollinating each other. Not all fruit trees need that. Most of the places that you order them from online, it will tell you this tree needs a pollinator or something like that. Sometimes with apple trees, like you could get an Evercrisp or whatever kind of apple, and if you buy a crab apple, that will pollinate it. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of crab apples, but so you just need to check into it and make sure that you have those pollinators.
With planting them in a line, when y'all came up the driveway, if you're going out on the right-hand side of the driveway, eventually I'm going to take and clear out some of that, and all the way down from the curve in the driveway down to the gate is gonna be another food forest. So I'll plant those, you're kind of set, you kind of gotta plant those in line, it's not gonna hurt. And I've seen where some people will take and line both sides of their driveway with
Yeah.
it. But in that instance, yeah, we're gonna line them up, but once everything grows in and you've got woods there anyway, nobody's gonna notice, be like, hey, this guy planted a food forest right here, because it's butting up to everything else that's just grown up. So it'll kind of look a little bit more manicured, like, hey, maybe this guy comes and weed eats along his driveway every so often. But you can line them up if you've got to. Down here on the big one, I came through with the tractor and popped holes every so often. I was like, that's where we're gonna put trees. And there's no rhyme or reason on it. That looks good, let's pop a hole right there and put a tree in.
Another thing about fruit and nut trees, they have an average lifespan of about 20 to 25 years. So, like with Randy and I, and wanting this to be something that survives us, you need to be thinking about, okay, in 5 years, I might want to plant another tree, just so you've got that succession of trees growing, you know. And just a little side note, if you're going to do something like this, like what him and I are planning on doing, let people know. Because, I mean, if I'm building a food forest that I don't want the everyday stranger to know what's there, I want people that I want to benefit from it. I want them to know it's there, right? So just let people know. And
Don't let them take the bobcat and just come in and clear everything out. And
well,
then
you
they
were
find
talking
out.
about that guy that came in and cleared out all the walnut trees, and you know, like.
Oh yeah, we had down over on one of the little gravel county roads, the whole place was lined with huge, big, mature walnut trees, and you could go down there and get walnuts whenever you wanted. And he decided he wanted it more farming ground, so just came in, took a dozer and traco and leveled everything. And I'm just like, you sorry dog. So,
They even sell lumber for them.
no, it piled it all up and burned all of it. So
That's a lot of money there on the walnut.
yeah, I know. I don't know. He's got more money and he knows what to do with.
And there's so many things, when we first bought our land and us not knowing anything, we would go out and Randy's got a weed eater that has one of those blade things on it that you can cut stuff down. And
Bush blade.
yeah, he would say, I'm just gonna weed eat this area, and I was like, not until I know what's in that area. Because there's, just like black walnuts, when those start falling, if you feed them to your pigs, there's so many vitamins and nutrients in those that they need. There's tons of stuff that you can get off of your own land. If you don't know what's on your land, then you got to go buy chemicals to take care of your animals, and you don't want to do that, right? So yeah, just know what you have and use the resources that you have on your land. Don't let if it's on your farm or if on your neighbor's land, there's nothing you can do about it. But try to encourage him not to cut down the black walnut trees and trade them for him or something.
Oh, yeah. And we can kind of go over, I don't know if y'all can see this real good or not, but y'all can come up in a little bit. That is essentially like Shelly was saying. This right here is your tree, and around here is a drip line on it. And what you want to do, all these plants work together as in nature. And you've got the 7 layers of your forest and everything, so we're mimicking those 7 layers is what we're going to do. So you've got the center, right here is your tree trunk. You're going to go with some herbs like oregano, thyme, rosemary, and then you've got, right around there too, you've got garlic and daffodils. The daffodils are supposed to keep some of the deer and stuff like that away from your trees and keep them out. And then of course you've got herbs in there that you can go pick, and like Shelly was saying, you can use a lot of that for medicinal stuff too. And as you come out, comfrey is a dynamic accumulator. It pulls nutrients and minerals from deep down in the soil and pulls them up. And a lot of people will use it to mulch. They just come in, and comfrey just grows ungodly fast from everything I've seen. You can come in, hack that stuff off, and use it to mulch around your tree. So all the minerals and everything that comfrey is pulled up, you're cutting it and putting it on your trees. So you're doing a mulch right there. So all those nutrients get to your trees.
You don't even have to chop it up. You just chop and drop.
Yeah, essentially just come in, hack it at the ground and lay it in there. You can feed your animals comfrey too. A lot of people, there's certain people that are like, oh no, you can't feed it to them, it's gonna kill them. But everything I've seen, and it depends on where you look. you know, big ag is like, no, don't feed that to them. You need these supplements instead.
So they want you to sell it.
Yeah, and it's all, yeah, it's who you ask on whether something's good or bad. It's just, if you ask Big Pharma if herbs are good for you, they're like, hell no, you can't have that stuff. That you know, tincture's gonna kill you, but take this and it's gonna make you poop your pants every 5 minutes and you might get a blood clot or something. I'll take my chances with the herbs for sure. But, and then
Comfrey is loaded with protein too. That's another reason why it's good for your animals.
and you can make salves and all kinds of stuff with it. So we'll have comfrey planted around, and then outside of our drip edge of the trees, you can plant berry plants. We're gonna be planting blueberry plants is what we're gonna plant today. You can plant, what, goji berries, blackberries?
My mind just went blank. Raspberries.
No, it can be, I mean, you can do whatever contour you wanna do with it.
But I got a big apple tree all by itself, and it's on like a little.
It'll work fine. I mean, the woods are not dead flat, and I mean, the woods work out, and you've got forest and all that area, so, I mean, if it's on a slope, it wouldn't be a problem. There's a couple tricks, and remind me, and I'll show you how to plant some of that stuff if it's on too much of a hill, that I found a trick on doing. The one thing I didn't put up here, your ground cover. If you disturb nature, nature is going to put something there. So don't let nature decide, you decide. If you're like, hey, I don't want these weeds growing up, you've got to plant something in there. So one of the big things we're going to use today for ground cover is strawberries. So the strawberries will spread out, cover the ground, and keep any of the weeds from coming up. So you've decided what you're going to put there. So we're going to put strawberries, and we're going to get a strawberry harvest off of it.
You want to be thinking with a food forest and a guild. You want to be thinking perennials. You can come in and plant annuals. You could plant, once you get this established, you could come in and plant tomato plants. You could plant cucumbers. I mean, you can do any of that stuff because you're going to be mulching this really well. You're going to have good soil here, and lots of things are going to grow in it. But as far as harvesting out of a food forest, you want to be thinking perennials. And you can even plant things like asparagus, works well in this too. So, you know, because that takes a few years for that to.
But our asparagus
do its
didn't
thing.
come in. We were going to put asparagus, but
Yeah, it'll be there, but it's not going to come in until next month.
let's rake those guys over the coals. But that's probably about it. We can answer questions and kind of see. Does anybody got any questions right now? If we don't know the answer, we'll BS you an answer for it. So, but do y'all want to get out and start planting stuff now? Do that?
Do you want to go through what you have in the box and
Yeah.
explain to them some of the things we're going to be doing? The packet that you have, it actually will give you a list. There's a section that talks about grass suppression, insect and bird attracting plants that are good to come in and help, like pollinators and all of that kind of thing. Mulch types of plants, nutrient accumulators, nitrogen fixers. We've provided lists for all of these, even pest repellents. Garlic is great as a pest repellent, also rosemary.
You gotta replace the garlic every year.
If you doing this, get free labor.
It depends on if you leave it.
Jamie said
If you leave it, it'll just reseed itself or whatever. But if you're gonna pull it up, then yeah, you need to pop a clove back in there and replant it.
Well, you got some of the stuff we've got. We've got garlic that we're going to plant. Like we said, plant it all around the trees. I've got comfrey root cuttings. We're going to plant those, and it's with the comfrey, everything that I've read and what Billy says, don't plant your comfrey in real good soil. He was like, the crappier the soil it is, the better it does. And he's like, if you put it in compost or put it in topsoil,
Like
or
potting soil.
yeah, potting soil, he's like, it's just not going to do it. He's like, put it in some crappy soil and then it'll do its thing. So we got the comfrey roots, daffodils. We've got 2 or 3 different types of daffodils, different colors. We're gonna plant those, and then that'll make it all pretty. So you gotta have that. Get that. And then I'll start bringing some wood mulch in, and then we'll start wood mulching everything. So we'll bring maybe 3 feet, depending. Let's see how much cardboard we've got. So bring about 3 feet up along through here, and then we kind of want to square this up a little bit. So if we want to start laying cardboard, it's pretty easy. Take your pocket knife.
So you want to use cardboard that is not
I got a ton of it
I
down
was
there
gonna say
already.
it's cool if Jason wants to use it, but ideally you don't want that.
We're gonna see if it works.
So what the cardboard does, it acts as a mulch layer, but it also draws up worms that you want in your garden.
Oh, you got a knife on you to cut this?
I do not.
Right in here, so I got all of that. Hey, Tom.
It sounds like it, my God. Anybody forget their shower this morning?
We don't have showers.
Y'all don't have shower?
Whoa, you need one there, huh?
No, we got a shower.
Yeah, that's gonna cover up a lot, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I was real proud of that one.
Blueberries over there.
Yeah, those are blueberries.
You want to grab a bunch of
Yeah, grab a couple of them.
I used to work in a nursery a long time ago. It's probably my favorite job. Here's that.
We're just kind of planting them. I mean, we're gonna put them like maybe halfway between trees.
Now, what are these?
Those are blueberries.
Blueberries.
Yeah. Bring them out, kind of keep them like halfway between trees. Does that make sense? So like you've got a tree here and a tree here, so we'll set this one like right about here. Yeah, that's good right there. What about up there where the cardboard's at? Maybe between those two up there?
Think right here better that good right here?
Yep, right there's good. And then maybe put one right here.
Practice with the little one.
That's fine. He's going to be getting more. We've got more coming in November. You want to set one right up here?
Y'all want to stick that cardboard on there, stick it on there? I don't
So, everybody who's planting, right there, those two white buckets, that's full of rabbit poo. And anything you put in the ground, if you put rabbit poo in the bottom of it, it's going to help it grow. So, rabbit poo is a cold manure, so you can put it directly on your plants. It doesn't burn them up at all. You can also put it on top. It doesn't, I mean, just wherever.
Go ahead and start digging these in. And you want to go twice as wide as the pot? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Hey, what are you doing, Shelley?
I'm planting a Jason has got all these fruit trees out here, and we have placed the blueberry bushes about halfway between each one of the trees. And he's been building soil out here, and we are getting them in the ground. I think I'm running into some roots. Randy said you live in Metcalf. Yep.
Come over and help him with it. My brother gets ready.
And just make the hole about 1.5 to 2 sizes for the pot, and then we'll get it put in there.
And as deep? How deep do you want to go, Chef? How deep?
About as deep as what?
About like a pot?
Yep, that's good.
Yeah, see, I'm recording for 2 different people here, so it may be look a little shoddy. Shelley, what are you doing now?
So we're adding rabbit poo in to fertilize this. Because rabbit poo is cold and it doesn't burn up your plant. Okay, you want to shovel that in around that? There we go.
So what's this layer stuff you're putting around on the outside?
That's all mulch. So Jason wants to extend this food forest, and so we've laid down cardboard. The cardboard will keep grass from coming up in this, and it also retains moisture and draws up worms underneath it. And then he's putting a layer of, he's got mulch that's been dumped over here from one of those mulch drop places. And he's bringing it over here and putting a layer of mulch around all of these trees. So we have our crew. This is the food forest at Jason's, and he's got fruit trees. You see the tall trees, they're all fruit trees. And then we've got like that red one right there, that's a blueberry bush out there. So we've got several blueberry bushes through here. And then around each tree we've planted garlic and daffodils. And then there's a couple herbs on each one. We'll be adding more in the spring. And then all through the food forest we have put strawberries in as a ground cover. So over time, this will all get grown up and it'll be food. pretty awesome. Billy, this is for you. We got some pork belly candy.
Yep, Billy, we're eating pork belly candy. Don't you wish you were here?
It's so good.
Oh, it's good, Billy. You need to drive down to Bowling Green and get some, Billy.
That's right. So, just to put an end on this crazy weekend, as you saw in the video before now, we did a class at Jason's place for Kentucky Sustainable Living. We taught people about food forests and guilds, and Jason had actually attended Billy's class at the Self-Reliance Festival, and he wanted to share everything that he learned with our Kentucky Sustainable Living community. So that's what we did yesterday. So Jason let us borrow his trailer because we were going to go pick up some hogs. And when we got home last night from the guild class, the water pump went out of in our truck. And so we had that to deal with, which Randy is still working on that. He's driven to the next town over to get a tool that he needs for that. And because we didn't have, this was like the only day we had open to go get these hogs. And so Jason drove over here, and which he's like an hour from us, so we're so incredibly thankful for that. But he drove over here, picked up his trailer, and we drove another hour and a half east to go get these hogs. We got 5 of them, and our intention is just to put them in the freezer, and but not all at the same time. But you know, it was a really great deal, and that's what we want to do. And so we have 3 of them. 2 of them are pretty good size. They're about 200 to 250 pounds, and they're ready to process. And then 3 of them are smaller. And one of them is actually one of them is actually a cross between a potbelly pig and the same breed that our pigs are. So one of the big ones, one of the big 250 pound or 200 pound ones, is that big one laying right over there, and then the little potbelly one is laying right there. And they refuse to go into the barn and out into the pig run, and they are right now, they were pretty stressed out, and so they're chilling in the backyard. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to lure them into the barn with some food in a little bit. But I'm just going to let them rest for right now. Our backyard is completely fenced in anyway, so it's never a dull moment on the homestead. Always something going on. Okay, so Wilma over there, I don't think she's liking the new pigs, because they go around her little babies and she gets all bent out of shape. So this one is one of the new ones, this black one, and then that striped one right there is Fred, the one closest to me. The striped one on the other side and that smaller one are new additions. So we're just going to grow them out and have pork. And then there's Curly, big old Curly. He's a good guy. Yes, he is. Curly's a good old boy. Have you ever had a day that you're just like, everything's going wrong? If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen that day, kind of thing. Kind of like you're just not, I don't know, maybe you're being negative about everything. Kind of feel like that's me today. So I'm gonna close out this video, not with news that we rounded up the pigs, because we did not. Nope, that one's in the pen. See, they're right there, laying over there against the fence row. Still in the backyard, but that's okay. Our whole backyard is fenced in, so it doesn't really matter. I was I was talking to my daughter, and this has kind of been a crazy weekend. But I was talking to my daughter about some things that had happened, and just, I was kind of whining and being like, oh my gosh, it's just everything's so chaotic, and why is all this stuff happening? And you know what? That's totally the wrong way to think about this. So some crappy things that happened this weekend. First and foremost, the worst part is my brother was in a wreck last night, and he was hit by a drunk driver. And the drunk driver actually hit him and 2 other people, like 3 different wrecks. And the wreck that my brother was in, when he hit my brother, it was the worst of all 3. He had to end up being sent to Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee, and but he's okay. He's good. And then another thing that happened is our water pump went out on our truck, and that was kind of a huge inconvenience. And then, going out to get these pigs, and they don't want to cooperate, and we've got 2 pigs in the backyard and all this, and I just got in this place of just whining about stuff. And you know what? Seriously, I have no right to do that. I really don't. I have so much to be thankful for. First and foremost, that my brother is fine. And he's going to be okay. And he's actually home now. Praise God. And I'm so very thankful for that. Second thing, Randy knows how to fix our truck. And that'll get done. I'm not sure if it's going to get done today, but it'll get done. We were able to get some hogs that we are going to process and help put into some freezers of some friends and family. I'm very thankful to be able to do that, especially in this day and age, especially in this time. We have a really good friend in Jason, and it's like going out to Jason's place yesterday and doing that class. I had a great time doing that, and I met a lot of fantastic people, and I was really excited about that. And I feel like those people got a lot out of that class, and they learned how to do one more thing to help them be, self-sufficient or self-reliant. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful that when I messaged Jason this morning, he was like, hey, I'll come pick you up. I'll get the trailer. We'll go pick up the pigs. And, Randy can work on the truck and try to get the truck fixed. I'm so very thankful for that. I don't have any reason to be negative or complain about anything going on. I truly do not. And so, if you feel like you're getting, if you feel like you're having a day where it just seems like everything's against you and everything's going wrong, the sun is getting in my eyes. There we go. If you have a day where you seem like everything is just against you and everything's going wrong, stop for a minute and just start making a list of all of the reasons that you have to be thankful. Because nothing will bring you out of that negativity more than realizing how incredibly blessed we are. So I hope you have a great weekend. I hope that, everything's going your way, and I hope y'all realize how blessed you are. And y'all pray that I get these pigs out in the field. But it'll be okay if I don't. It's all good. Anyways, I will see y'all later. Bye. Yeah, God bless you. Have a great day.